For St. Paul's.
Mr. Speaker, Monsieur le Président, je suis très...
Mr. Speaker, I am very honored to have an opportunity to speak to Bill C-280 this evening, an act to establish a national strategy for chronic cerebrospinal venous insufficiency.
With huge sadness, actually, that I'm speaking to this bill. These are the kinds of private members' bills that shouldn't be necessary. It is a shame that the time of this chamber is being spent on something that the government should have done and should have done over 2 years ago if there had been any leadership. This has been a total disgrace in terms of the handling of this file by this government. It's demonstrated a total failure to provide the federal leadership that would have been able to move this forward, and a total failure to listen to the provinces and territories, but mainly a total inability and failure to listen to the patients. It's what my colleague from Mount Royal calls the mobilization of shame. The briefing Monday night was one of the worst that I've heard of since I've been in this place. The Minister of Health taking the time of the President of the Canadian Institute of Health Research to actually demonize a private member's bill that has the support of the very organization and of so many patients across the country. The pathetic attempt of this government to disguise try and cover their lack of action on this in a private member's motion to look like they're doing something when all that motion does is actually ask to collect a bit of information that should be being collected all again. Well, what I wish the Minister of Health had been able to do was to show up Tuesday morning at the amazing breakfast that was put on of, I think, the fourth of similar breakfasts by the Member of Parliament for Etobicoke North, the author of this bill. If she had been there to hear Dr. Joseph Hewitt, Dr. James McCucken, and the amazing patient Linda Hume-Sastry, she would have actually understood how much we care about moving forward immediately on these actions. My journey started on CCSVI almost 2 years ago, March 29th, 2010. I'd been asked to go to the Patient Summit, which was to show the voices of so many patients from all of the disease entities across the country coming together to share some principles. And I, ironically, was on the panel named, "Is the Voice of Patients Being Heard?" It was just after I stepped down off the stage that it was time for lunch, and a number of patients came in front of me and asked me if I would go and sit at their table for lunch. This was a table filled with patients and families of patients, of people from British Columbia who were now absolutely convinced that this new liberation procedure could help them. They described people that were on their way to a wheelchair, on their way to be bedridden, on their way out of this world. It was so poignant, and it was interesting yesterday morning when Drs. Hewitt and McLaughlin actually said that those of us trained as physicians sometimes have a great deal of difficulty keeping an open mind and to be able to have a different look at things if it's different than the way we were trained in medical school or in our trainings, or the kinds of treatments that we would prescribe or end up trying to get for our patients. It was quite interesting that the way that these patients and their families explained how this procedure seemed to be helping lots of people, and at that point that they were already trying to get that treatment outside of Canada. But I think the theme that you will hear this evening and from patients across this country, they want to be able to be treated here, and they want to be able to be treated here now. It is absolutely astounding that when I came back and to this place and had a casual conversation with my colleague from Etobicoke North, who had already expressed quite an interest in neurological diseases, as we all know in this place, And it ended up that she had attended a conference on CCSVI in February the previous month and had been looking into this condition or to this potential treatment from the previous year in November. From that time on, the member from Etobicoke North has been the source of inspiration for all of us here, but mainly the daily counsel of hundreds and hundreds of patients across this country that she deals with on a daily basis and keeps their spirits up. And I think all of us here just don't know how it's possible for one member of Parliament to have such an important influence on the lives of so many Canadians. In the May of that year, the member for Etobicoke North and myself as the critic for health wrote to Minister of Health asking for to support the MS Society's request for $10 million for research into the potential cause of CCSVI and in support of that request. It was clear at that time that there had been controversy surrounding it, but that we thought that Canadians deserved to have the facts. We weren't at that time saying this definitely works or it definitely doesn't work, but we were very concerned that the people deciding that were perhaps not listening to the patients about the things like the fatigue and the brain fog and these things that people felt almost immediately better if they were able to tell their story. It was very important at that time that we felt that people got on with actual clinical trials. That's what the people wanted. They wanted trials where they could actually take whatever risk there was of the procedure and then be able to be documented after. We were at that time already hearing stories of people who'd gone out of country to get the treatment, being refused treatment by their home physicians. And we then asked, as the member from Etobicoke North asked to do an emergency debate on this in the House, which was declined. There was then a take-note debate, and we did do 4 hearings in the Subcommittee on Health, at which time we heard from Dr. Zamboni himself, Dr. Sandy MacDonald, and a number of the really important experts in this area from around the world. Madam Speaker, 400 people die per year of multiple sclerosis, and it is extraordinary. And as we heard on yesterday morning, that if this possible treatment is being caught up in some turf war between what Dr. MacDonald talked about, that it would be like, Madam Speaker, you having to have permission from the electrician to get plumbing done on your house. This is what now is viewed to be a plumbing problem, meaning a cardiovascular problem, as opposed to a pure autoimmune disease in the purview of neurologists. What we are asking for in these trials is that all of medicine work together for the best interests of the patient, and that means that the turf wars have to stop. We then asked in another letter to the Minister of Health on the 20th of August, asking that this issue be placed on the agenda for the health ministers' meeting in September, and we hoped that again that they would listen to one another, and hoped that once again that the federal government would take some leadership on this, as provinces like Saskatchewan had very clearly taken the lead. I ask all members of this House to go to the member of Etobicoke North's website, look at her speech that she delivered December 8th, her response to the parliamentary secretary's response and the member from Simcoe Grey, to read the letter from the Canadian Coalition for the Study of Venous Insufficiency that is placed on our website, and to listen to their words as they say, as such, we urge all members of Parliament to vote in favour of your bill as they outline the parts of the bill and why they support it. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Resuming